Hello and welcome to another watchmaking video. Today, instead of building another one from scratch, I'm going to be updating a watch that I previously built.
The watch that we're going to be modifying today is already a Nismo inspired build. I had used a samurai style dial with full lume. However, I didn't feel like it fully captured the Nismo style. I'm also going to be replacing the sapphire crystal with one that does not have the Cyclops due to the day-date style dial. The dial I'm going to be using came from dialmaker.shop. Really excited to show you guys how this turned out. This is a forged carbon fiber dial with some silver flakes in the inlays. And I went with the black indices and black lume. Now the black lume doesn't shine as bright, however it's a trade-off I was willing to take. I'm doing a wrist check. On my wrist today I have my very first build. It is a meteorite dial, titanium samurai housing with an NH34 GMT movement. I even had a custom logo made using the pilot wings. Let's get back to the build. Let's start off by removing the bracelet from the watch. It'll make it a lot easier to work on. Use my spring bar removal tool. Now some watches will have the holes drilled completely through the lugs. If not, you can use the other side of the spring bar removal tool and press it in from the inside. Now sometimes you can get lucky and just remove the bracelet after adjusting one spring bar. Other times you have to use press both of them. Alright, bracelet is now removed. Let's go ahead and remove the case back using a friction ball. Now 99% of the time you can remove case backs using this tool. If not, you can use specific tools to grab those indents you see on the case back. All the case back is removed. Go ahead and remove the stem. Now whenever I'm moving or working inside the watch, to protect the movement, I like to make sure that the rotor is covering up the balance wheel. It is the most delicate part of your movement, and the slightest touch can break your hairspring. Right, to remove the stem, there's like an L-shaped bracket here, or an arm. You'll apply pressure to the end of it, and while applying pressure, go ahead and remove the stem. And there we go. Stem is removed. Alright, next step's going to be removing the movement from the case itself. I like to apply some gentle pressure there's some holes in the side of the movement, or the spacer. Once you get it loosened up, I use the case back to hold the movement, and I just flip it over. Now sometimes it'll take a little pressure. You just have to be really careful not to apply too much pressure and damage the movement. We go ahead and reinstall the stem here so we can stop the hands. Waiting until the second hand reaches the 12 o'clock position. You don't really need to do this, but I'm a little OCD when it comes to most builds. Next, we're going to go ahead and install our dial protector. It's really important to protect the dial, especially if you plan on reusing them. Using the hand removal tool, I'm going to go ahead and very carefully pop the hands off. Alright, once the hands are removed, we'll go ahead and pop the dial off of the movement. Tiny little gaps here on either side. I like to use the spring bar removal tool to kind of slide that in there and then give it a slight twist just to get this dial separated from the movement. And there we go. The dial is removed. Alright. Now for the fun part. We got our carbon fiber dial, but it has dial feet on it already for the 3.8 o'clock and the 3 o'clock. Now the watch that we're using today has a 3.8 o'clock crown position, so we're going to go ahead and remove the dial feet that we no longer need. I'm going to go ahead and set the dial onto the movement, verifying which dial foot I no longer need. It's one of those measure twice, cut once ordeals. You don't want to remove the wrong dial foot. Now if you find yourself in the position where you do remove the wrong one, you can always use dial dots. They're tiny adhesives that you can apply to the dial and stick it directly to the spacer on your movement. And it's removed. Let's see how this dial looks once installed. You want to gently apply pressure right above the dial feet without pressing on the indices, because the loom is actually also pretty fragile. If you put too much pressure on the loom itself, you can distort it. Once the dial installed, the next step is going to be adjusting the crown until the exact moment when the date clicks over. That way you know the hands are going to be at the 12 o'clock position. So we're going to go ahead and set us up on the hand press. Grabbing the hour hand, I like to use a little bit of help get it into position. I kind of use the hand press to get exactly where I want it. Apply some gentle pressure, and then we'll double check and make sure that it is properly installed. Verifying that it clicks over exactly at midnight. There we go. Next we're going to go ahead and install the minute hand. This will be done the same way as the hour hand. And apply some gentle pressure just to get it seated onto the post. Now I don't fully install it, I like to just get it gently seated. Verify that it's installed properly and that it clicks over at midnight. There you go. And there we go. Looks like it clicked over about 2 minutes early, which is fine. Most Seiko watches will click over like at a plus or minus 5 minutes from midnight. Now we know that the hand is in the proper position. We'll go ahead and fully seat it onto that center post. Now for everyone's favorite part, the second hand installation. So this one, can't stress enough of taking your time, using patience, and very little pressure, because if you bend that center post, the movement is toast. So, same as the other hands, I like to put very little pressure on there, make sure it's correctly installed on the post. Then I'll set it back on the hand press, apply a little bit more pressure to ensure the second hand is fully installed. Now that we have the second hand fully seated, we'll verify that it still operates properly. Now whenever you're checking clearances, you want to let the second hand go all the way around, checking at the, I like to do the 12, 3, 6, and 9 o'clock positions. Once the movement complete, we're going to go ahead and pop the crystal out. Go ahead and set this chapter ring back inside the case. and grab a crystal that does not have the Cyclops magnifier. Go and align our chapter ring. There's a little notch here on the bottom, and I'll slide into that little section at the 12 o'clock position to make sure that all your indices line up. And there we go. Let's go ahead and get our crystal installed. Go ahead and center up this case on our crystal press and ensure that the crystal is installed completely evenly. With our crystal installed, next we're going to go ahead and install our movement. Now it'll be a lot easier to see the arm that I was talking about earlier. We're going to go ahead and apply pressure and remove our stem. We'll go ahead and set this movement into the case back. And go ahead and set our case on top of our movement. With our movement centered inside of our case, go ahead and apply gentle pressure to the spacer. Verifying that the movement seats entirely into our case. Verifying there's no gaps between our chapter ring and the dial. We can go ahead and reinstall our stem. On installed, we'll go ahead and reinstall the case back. Starting by getting it finger tight, then using that same case back removal tool, we'll give it an extra quarter turn, ensuring that it retains the watertight seal it came with from the factory.